The internet did not just wake up, it detonated. 1 second the timeline was normal celebrity noise. And the next it felt like somebody rang a heavyweight championship bell inside a reality show reunion. On. Because the moment Claressa Shields stepped into the situation, everything changed, the tone sharpened, the energy thickened, and suddenly Chrisean rock wasn't just trending. She was under a digital microscope. This wasn't mild shade or playful back and forth. This felt like gasoline meeting a lit match in the middle of a crowded room. When a two-time Olympic gold medalist enters messy online tension, you don't get whispers. You get shockwaves. Fans immediately split into sides like it was pay-per-view night. Some said Chrisean was standing 10 toes down. Others claimed emotions were spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, the memes started printing themselves before the facts even settled. Reaction pages were foaming at the mouth, and the phrase meltdown started spreading faster than a leaked group chat screenshot. But here's where it gets wild. The contrast was impossible to ignore. On one side, raw emotion, loud, passionate, unpredictable. On the other side, calm precision, controlled, measured, almost surgical. And the internet, oh, it lives for contrast. It zoomed in on every pause, every tone shift, every facial expression like it was analyzing courtroom footage. Suddenly, this wasn't just celebrity tension, it was a spectacle. And if you think this ends quietly, you haven't been paying attention. The tension didn't explode overnight, it simmered. What started as subtle online chatter quickly morphed into something heavier, something layered with pride and perception. Chrisean rock has never been known for subtle energy. She moves with emotion on full display, whether it's love, frustration, or loyalty. That authenticity is exactly why her supporters ride so hard for her. But when emotions spill into their public arena, the internet doesn't whisper about it. It amplifies it. At first, it was small signals. A response here, a comment there. Screenshots began circulating like limited edition trading cards. Fans started stitching together timelines, building theories out of fragments. And before long, what may have been a disagreement became a spectacle. Because online context rarely survives, only clips do. And clips are dangerous when removed from nuance. Then Claressa Shields' name entered the mix, and the temperature shifted instantly. This wasn't just another influencer adding commentary. This was an undefeated champion whose presence alone carries weight. When someone disciplined, accomplished, and publicly composed steps into a chaotic space, it changes the optics immediately. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't just about emotion, it was about control. The contrast became the headline. On one side, visible passion, on the other, measured confidence. Social media thrives on opposites, and this situation handed it a perfect script. Memes compared it to a boxing face-off. Comment sections turned into debate arenas, and users who had never followed either woman suddenly became experts on body language and intent. As reactions piled up, the word meltdown started trending like it had been pre-scheduled. But here's the problem: online culture loves dramatic labels. A raised voice becomes instability. A defensive statement becomes unraveling. A moment of frustration becomes a full-blown spiral. And once that narrative attaches itself, it doesn't let go easily. Supporters of Chrisean argued she was simply defending herself with the same intensity she's always shown. They said passion doesn't equal weakness. Critics, however, painted the situation differently. They pointed to tone, timing, delivery. They said composure wins battles before they even begin. And just like that, perception split clean down the middle. Meanwhile, Claressa's calm demeanor became part of the storyline. She didn't appear flustered. She didn't escalate dramatically. And in the world of internet optics, calm often reads as dominance. Whether intentional or not, her presence added gravity. It made the situation feel less like messy commentary and more like a high-stakes exchange. The longer the conversation lingered, the more exaggerated it became. Reaction channels broke down micro-expressions. TikTok creators added dramatic music behind short clips. Twitter threads turned into psychological breakdowns that would make a therapist raise an eyebrow. And the louder the commentary became, the less the original issue even mattered. Because at this point, it wasn't about what was said, it was about how it looked. It was about who seemed rattled and who seemed steady. Social media doesn't judge fairness, it judges presentation. And presentation shapes public memory. Once viewers decide who lost, that opinion cements faster than facts can correct it, and so the storm grew. Not necessarily because of explosive new developments, but because the internet fed itself. Each repost intensified the narrative. Each hot take stretched the story further. Each meme hardened opinions. By the time neutral observers tuned in, they weren't watching an argument. They were watching a spectacle already framed as a collapse. That's how fast things can spiral. In the digital age, not because emotions are unusual, not because tension is rare, but because the internet doesn't allow moments to breathe. It magnifies them, distorts them, and packages them for consumption. And in this case, the packaging read loud and clear: chaos versus composure. But here's the real question simmering underneath all of it. Was this truly a meltdown? Or was it a collision of strong personalities amplified beyond proportion? Because when you strip away the edits, the captions, and the dramatic background music, what remains might not be nearly as explosive. Yet perception doesn't care about quiet truths. It cares about spectacle, not just when you thought the temperature might cool down. The internet poured gasoline on it and struck another match. What began as tense exchanges suddenly transformed into a full-blown cultural debate, not about facts, not about context, but about dominance, respect, and who looked stronger under pressure. Because once the word meltdown circulates long enough, people don't ask if it's accurate. They ask how bad it was. Memes started evolving in real time. Some edited dramatic boxing intros with slow-motion clips. Others created split screens comparing emotional reactions to calm responses, like it was a sports highlight reel. The situation was no longer a disagreement, it was framed as a psychological showdown. And the internet loves nothing more than turning real people into characters in a digital arena. Celebrity commentators began chiming in with subtle remarks. Nothing direct enough to ignite fresh flames, but just enough to keep the embers glowing. Reaction channels analyzed tone shifts like they were decoding secret messages. TikTok stitched together old footage to create contrast narratives. Suddenly, past interviews resurfaced and were reinterpreted under this new lens of tension. And here's where things got complicated. The louder the commentary became, the more exaggerated the narrative felt. Emotional expression was dissected like it was evidence in a courtroom. Calmness was interpreted as superiority. Every pause became suspicious. Every emphasis became dramatic. It wasn't about what happened anymore. It was about what it symbolized. Supporters of Chrisean doubled down. They argued that emotional intensity should not be weaponized against someone. They claimed passion is often mislabeled when displayed publicly. They questioned why composure is automatically equated with control. And in their view, what some labeled a spiral was simply unfiltered authenticity on the other side. Critics praised Claressa's steady energy. They described her demeanor as poised and strategic. They framed her involvement as assertive rather than reactive. In online culture, remaining visibly calm often translates into winning by default, and perception, once again, became the loudest. Judge in the room. The hashtags escalated. Trending topics climbed. Think pieces appeared overnight dissecting emotion versus discipline as if this were a philosophical debate. Some compared it to classic pop culture rivalries where contrast fuels narrative. Fire versus ice, storm versus stone. And the more people framed it that way, the more dramatic it felt. Even neutral observers couldn't resist weighing in. They weren't necessarily fans of either side, but they understood spectacle when they saw it. And spectacle drives clicks. It drives engagement. It drives algorithmic momentum. So everyone had something to say, even if it was just, "This is wild." Then came the twist: silence. A brief pause in public exchanges that somehow made things louder, because when tension pauses mid-story, speculation fills the vacuum. People began theorizing about private conversations, about behind-the-scenes messages, about potential future confrontations. The absence of noise created even more noise. Suddenly, this wasn't just about the present moment. It became about long-term impact. Would this change future collaborations? Would it alter public perception permanently? Would this resurface months from now during another unrelated situation? Because once two strong names collide publicly, the internet bookmarks it for future reference. And while no official escalation occurred, the symbolic weight of the clash lingered. The contrast between visible emotion and disciplined restraint became the central takeaway. It wasn't about who yelled louder. It was about who looked unshaken. In digital culture, appearance often outweighs intention. The energy didn't dissipate, it shifted. From explosive commentary to simmering narrative, from direct reactions to subtle interpretations. But make no mistake, the tension never truly vanished. It simply evolved into something quieter, something strategic. And the internet, it stayed watching, waiting for the next spark. Because when personalities this powerful intersect, the story doesn't end with one trending cycle. It plants seeds for future storms. And the way this escalated so quickly proves one thing clearly: spectacle doesn't need volume. It just needs contrast. And contrast is exactly what made this moment impossible to ignore. By the time the dust started settling, the damage wasn't explosive, it was subtle. And subtle damage in the public eye can last longer than a loud argument ever could. Because once a narrative attaches itself to your name, it lingers in search results, in comment sections, in future headlines. The internet doesn't just move on hit archives. And this situation was archived in bold letters for Chrisean. The label became the story. Not the context, not the nuance, just the word people kept repeating. Some viewers reinforced old opinions, saying this proved a pattern. Others defended her harder than ever, arguing that emotional expression shouldn't be mischaracterized as instability. But either way, her name stayed attached to the moment, and repetition shapes reputation. Claressa, on the other hand, walked away looking composed, whether intentional or not. Her calm delivery solidified an image of control. In online culture, the person who appears unshaken often wins the optics battle. Even if both sides feel equally passionate, the one who looks steady gets credited with dominance, and dominance online becomes part of branding. What's fascinating is how quickly public memory simplifies complexity. A layered exchange gets reduced to two extremes: emotional versus disciplined, loud versus controlled, spiral versus strategy. And once the audience decides which narrative fits best, they rarely revisit the details. The headline becomes the history. But here's the part no one talks about: viral tension doesn't just impact the moment, it shapes future interactions. Every future live stream, every interview, every public appearance now carries the shadow of this clash. Viewers watch differently. They analyze tone more critically. They look for hints of unresolved tension, and anticipation becomes part of the storyline. The relationship dynamic between perception and personality is fragile. One trending moment can amplify strengths or magnify weaknesses. If you're known for intensity, the internet expects intensity. If you're known for composure, the internet expects restraint. And when either side deviates from that expectation, it becomes news. In the aftermath, neither side escalated further. No dramatic showdowns, no public confrontations, just distance. But sometimes distance speaks louder than dialogue. Silence can feel strategic, it can feel mature, or it can feel like unfinished business. And depending on who you ask, this silence meant something different. Supporters on both sides remained active. They kept debating under reposted clips. They kept referencing the moment in unrelated conversations. Because once a clash gains symbolic value, it transcends its original cause. It becomes a reference point. Remember when? Becomes the opening line in future arguments. And here's the reality: the internet loves unfinished chapters. It thrives on tension that feels unresolved because unresolved stories promise sequels, and sequels bring clicks. So even though the visible storm calmed down, the atmosphere still feels charged. One interaction, one comment, one unexpected crossover could reignite everything instantly. Reputation in celebrity culture isn't static. It evolves with every trending cycle, and this cycle reinforced certain narratives for both names involved. Whether fair or exaggerated, perception shifted slightly, and in the public arena. Even slight shifts matter. They influence sponsorships, collaborations, and fan loyalty. The real lesson in all of this isn't about who is right or wrong. It's about how quickly contrast becomes conflict online. Strong personalities will always attract strong reactions. But when those personalities collide publicly, the audience doesn't watch passively. It participates, it frames, it judges, and then it remembers. So was it truly a meltdown? Or was it a magnified moment of tension dressed up for viral consumption? That depends on who's telling the story. But one thing is undeniable: when passion meets precision in the spotlight, sparks are inevitable. And in this case, those sparks lit up the entire timeline. And if you think this is the final chapter, think again. Because in celebrity culture, nothing ever really ends. It pauses, it simmers, it waits for the next opportunity to resurface. And when it does, the internet will be ready, screenshots loaded, opinions locked, and narratives already forming. Now I need you to be honest. Was this really a meltdown? Or did the internet grab a magnifying glass and turn a spark into a five-alarm fire? Because let's be real, social media doesn't just observe drama, it manufactures volume. Drop your take in the comments right now. Team passion or team precision? Don't sit on the fence. This is not a neutral zone. If you've been watching this unfold thinking, nah, this can't be that serious, welcome to modern celebrity culture. Everything is serious when the timeline decides it is. And trust me, this won't be the last storm we break down. The internet runs on chaos, and we are here to decode every single spark before it turns into a wildfire. So go ahead and smash that like button like it owes you money. Hit subscribe like you're securing front row seats to the next headline explosion, and turn on notifications because scandals don't schedule appointments, they drop unannounced. 1 minute it's calm, the next minute it's trending worldwide. We don't do boring recaps here. We dissect the tension, we question the narratives, and we spotlight the moments everyone else is too scared to analyze. Because in this arena, perception is power and drama is currency. And there is always another chapter loading behind the scenes. Stay locked in, stay loud in the comments. And remember, today's viral clash is tomorrow's sequel. This has been another deep dive into pure, unfiltered celeb insanity.